So we have seen how the black man was at the pinnacle of society and how he fell so far. But how does he return to glory? Could it be that slavery served to humble the black man and prepare him for a return to his glorious state?
From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my worshipers will bring an offering to me.
Let's take the Negro spiritual, for example. The Negro spiritual was born from stories from the Bible. Consequently, go down Moses, way down in Egypt land. Our ancestors, our progenitors and our patriarchs during slavery certainly identified with the people of the Bible. So that's certainly one way. The other way is something mentioned by Dr. Cobbs and Greer. He calls it the Jesus bag. And according to him, the Bible and the Christian faith were a way that African Americans survived slavery in this country, that were it not for the Christian teachings and the Bible and our faith in Christ, that we as a people would not even survive this peculiar institution called slavery.
Yes, you could hear them singing as they worked tirelessly in the fields. Under the back-breaking burden of labor, you could hear their joyful voices ringing through the air. Neither oppression, nor hunger, nor the master's whip could stop the slaves from praising and worshiping their God. Black brothers, we are to be a gift to the Lord. In a special way, you are uniquely positioned to be used by God.
At that time that he cuts off the twigs of the tree, representing a discipline of us as a people, he would bring to himself a gift of a people from that people. So in the last days, God is bringing us as a gift to the world, to himself. And the name he uses is Lord of Hosts. Why would he bring a gift to himself of the Lord of, as the Lord of Hosts? Because the Lord of Hosts is his fighting name. That's when he wants to battle. And if you look at the wars in this nation and around the world, we have always won battles. So God said, I'm going to use this gift to help me win the last battle against the enemy.
What does all this mean? God is saying to you, black man, return to me. I love you. I humbled you in order to use you. Because of my care for you, my plan from the beginning included your return to glory. Once we return to God, he can now use us to change the world, but in a different way than in previous generations.
The one true identity that I think we really need to find is our roots in terms of our rich African heritage. That still has been, for the most part, denied. We have not gone back to really find out who we are and how we contributed greatly to this society.
To understand a history that is not a history based in slavery, but a history based in royalty, based in some of the first architectural systems, some of the first engineering systems, some of the first governmental systems. If we understand that, that helps us then to flow in our purpose for today, because we recognize where we've come from.
If you don't know who you are, then you can't relate to others. If you can't relate to others, then you don't feel good about yourself.
I set out in a pretty impossible task. I decided to put together the entire history of African Americans as much as I could, the whole puzzle, piece by piece, in a visual and comprehensive way, like a timeline. But in this age of computers and, again, videos, it had to be visual, it had to be on display. Frederick Douglass, the great abolitionist, began to recruit free persons of color in the North for the first African-American regiment in the North, the legendary 54th Massachusetts, which was featured in the major motion picture Glory. The first African-American congressman was elected from Louisiana in 1868. It was John Willis Menard. George Washington Carver, agriculturalist, scientist. He found many uses for peanuts, peanut plants, peanut oil, and he really helped revitalize the Southern economy. The first person to reach the North Pole, to actually reach the North Pole, was not Admiral Peary. It was on his expedition. It was a black man, polar explorer Matthew Henson. first successful graduate of West Point was Charles Young. He became a colonel. He would have become the first black general, but he contracted nephritis in Liberia and he eventually died of that. The greatest ambassador this country ever had, I'm not talking politically, was Duke Ellington, Edward Kennedy Duke Ellington, a great orchestra leader, composer, who led a band from the 1920s through the 1970s. In 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., this leader of the civil rights movement, he really was so much responsible for civil rights in the South and immigration to schools. One of today's great black heroes is Colin Powell, hero of Desert Storm, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. You can be anything you want to be if you have the knowledge, if you can gain that knowledge. In this country, you've got all sorts of opportunity. And I think going back in your past, you know, Alex Haley said it best, you don't know where you're going. You can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been.